It's not broke, it's just taking into account what you're using. Now, if the T-min you loaded was here at 80, it's still going to check the 100. If it meets the dollar criteria, it's going to use that. If it can't meet the 100 or the dollar criteria, it's too large, it's going to report that to you, hit the next one. Oh, since it's T-min, it's going to use it. If the 8, it's here, it's going to try to use the 100. If it can, within the dollar parameters, it will. If it can't, it's going to check the 20. If it can use it within the dollar parameters, you guys got the idea, it'll use it. If not, oh, it hit the manual T-min, it's going to use it. If the T-min is here, it's going to check, check, check. And since this is higher than the T-min, it won't get kicked in. It's going to use the best of these 4 answers. That is the order point adjusters. All right, so that's how we're getting a better order point. Now, let me just remind you, all these order points and line points are working on what items? Your stocked items. You do have an order point and line point for things you don't stock, but they're really 0. So when we're going through this, I'm going down the road that yesterday, when we talked about statuses, you're already going, I have my stocking list right. All right, I know what I should be stocking and not stocking. This is working against your stocking list. And with the usage, you have your ARPs right. If you're feeding other branches, you have to tell that branch, I'm feeding other branches so I can take into account their usage. All right? And then we've been talking about ranking today. So again, a decent order point. Then, how do we get a decent line point? So now what goes in the line point? The usage, of course, which theoretically we've already taken care of. So then I'm going to move to the next one. What's our order cycle, review cycle, warehouse transfer cycle? And we talked about that quite a bit this morning. If you load your targets, now this isn't your min, it's what you're going for to get something. Hey, I got a $10,000 target and I'm doing $20K a month, I'll be able to place a PO every 2 weeks. I got $10,000 target and I'm doing $5,000 a month, I'll be able to place a PO every 2 months. That's the order cycle. That's what develops the line point. How often can I go back to my source? Now, what about transfers? What about transfers? A lot of companies do not transfer daily anymore. They plan on transferring once a week. So if I'm transferring once a week, what has to happen? It still has an order point and line point, just like we're buying, and it just has to say what? I don't plan on going back to the central warehouse for 7 days, so when I cut my transfer, don't only send the things that are below order point, but what would go below order point in the next 7 days, and make sure you send them a 7-day supply. You determine the transfer cycle by your routing, but again, if it's not daily, it's weekly, you have to tell the system, I'm going once a week. If you're only going once a month, you have to tell it, I'm going once a month. Yep, we're coming here. So there's a transfer cycle, and hold that question, I'll just finish up this one and then I'll come back and ask it. The last part of that then is, what if there is no target? And again, that was Eric's. I'm going to run it as quick as I can within what my cost of purchased apartments will allow me. Till I get a bottleneck, I'll slow it down, fix the bottleneck, and put it back up. So one is a calculated based off of target. One is a manual set because there's no target that we're going for.
With transfers, if you're feeding other branches because they're running out in emergency, like short for emergency situations, should we have that roll-up turned on, taking that into usage for our branch, or should we ignore that?
Well, it's not going to take it in because it uses rolled up usage. So it says, no matter how, and this is the trick, it says, here's the supplier. Here's my central warehouse. It doesn't even have to be a central warehouse. You just might be pulling it from someone. And here's a warehouse, okay? And what it's saying is, this guy, here's another warehouse over here. They didn't have enough, so I stole, and I'm using that term on purpose. I stole inventory from them to satisfy their need. And the question is, should that usage go in? Here's the real answer, and you can tell me. Do you plan on them stealing every day, every month, the same item? If the answer is yes, then it's a reoccurring transfer. It should create usage. But I'm going to come back and say, no, we're savvier than that. It stole it one time. I'm going to figure out why, go fix it, and get it back on process. So really, it was a one-time exception fix. or 2 times, and anything that's exceptional, non-reoccurring, no usage. Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Perfect. What you're starting to see here, and you guys already get it, someone said it yesterday, once we set this basis of this understanding and I start walking through it, these answers start where you didn't think about it the same way before yesterday, you're thinking about it differently today. Your questions are different, and you're starting to even answer some of these things yourself, going, oh, usage is simple in a sense. Is it going to reoccur? Yes, I want usage posted. Don't plan on it reoccurring? Don't post the usage. The safety stock, how we're applying in all of those things, it'll become much different how you look at it. Anything on line point, order cycle, review cycle. And everyone's understanding what I'm talking about, warehouse transfers. I'll just make sure you understand what I'm saying. Here's my order point. And if I do not plan on going back to that branch for a week, I have to do that same thing, transfer cycle, because again, 7 days, if I only get this, and this item, and I don't bring that item in, what's going to happen with it tomorrow? It's below order point, it says you need to transfer, but my truck's not going for a week, right? And the second part, if I don't plan on coming back for a week, at least send them a week's supply. So you would tell it I plan on coming back every week. These would show up, but also these, because it says, same as Grant's milk example, I'm not coming back for a week. What else would go below its order point? I need to transfer it as well. Transfers and POs work exactly the same way, exactly, with one exception. What's the only difference between a PO and transfer? A PO, I go outside my company and get it from what we call a vendor or supplier. A transfer, I go inside my company and get it from an internal vendor or supplier, i.e. another warehouse. Besides where I get it from, inside or outside, order point, line point, EOQ, everything, exactly the same. It's the same replenishment method. Okay, or style. Last part then, we've got a good line point. EOQ. Square root of 24 times the usage of the item times the cost to purchase, divide it by the, square root of 24 times the demand of the item times the cost to purchase, divide it by the unit cost, divide it by your carrying cost. Now everyone got EOQ when we put it up there, and don't put the square root into it. The concept of EOQ is very simple again. You guys do it all the time at home already. If we're out doing grocery shopping and it's something really, really inexpensive, even now I go to the store every Saturday. If it's something really expensive, am I grabbing just a week's worth, or am I throwing a couple months' worth in the cart? I'm throwing a couple months' worth in the cart. It doesn't take up much room, and it doesn't cost me, and it's going to save me from having to do the cart every time. Stuff that's really expensive or perishable, I'm only getting enough to take me out to the next time. So EOQ, in a nutshell, says if it's very, very expensive or expensive, buy less of it and do it more often. It's cheaper to pay the cost of purchase than the carrying cost. Inexpensive items, it's just the opposite. It says it's cheaper to buy more of it, put it on your shelf, and pay the carrying cost than it is to keep buying it every week and pay the $4 cost of purchasing. That's all EOQ is doing for us, economic order quantity. You guys, you'll get usage right. The cost of the items in that formula, you'll get that right. There's the K cost and the R cost. We'll talk about it more, but again, in general, 24% carrying costs for our U.S. and Caribbean friends that are here. 20% if you're from Canada because you don't pay taxes. That's what it costs to sit on inventory. If you're still walking the reports on your system, massaging through it and spending 2 hours on a PO to cut a PO, $10 a line item. That's your cost to purchase. If you're generating a PO, looking at it for about 5 minutes, and then pushing the button and sending it, you're around $3 cost to purchase. If you're using EDI and you're not even looking at it and you're letting the system cut them through VMI, you're around 13 cents cost to purchase. Most of you, I can already tell you, if you're using your system fairly well, are somewhere between the $3 and $4 on the cost of purchase mark. And we can talk about that during questions or anytime more. Last one, P&A. I have to have a reasonable purchase and available. I've got a good order point, usage, safety, lead time, order point adjusters, decent line point, usage and review cycle, EOQ, usage cost, R cost, K cost, on hand minus committed plus incoming, good on hand, good paper float control. I've now got a dipstick that really represents, because is every dipstick the same? If you lose the dipstick for your engine, can you just pull a dipstick out of any other car engine and put it in? No. It's geared specifically for that. So all we just did was build the right dipstick, the right min-max for this item. Another item's going to have a different dipstick. A different item's going to have it, but it's all the right dipstick. And then here, we're making sure it's oil in there. It's accurate what we have in there, the on-hand and the paper float. It's not mixed with garbage, oil or water, antifreeze, whatever. That's those bogus incomings and those bad on-hands. So to get you out on the break here, let me just make sure. Buckets, method, trendings, path, roll-up, lead time buckets, method, safety order point adjusters. Check. We covered it. Line point targets. And of course, is it dollars, pound, pieces? What's my review cycle? Is it calculated or manual? Check. EOQ, my cost to keep or my purchasing cost, my cost to reorder or, my cost to keep or my carrying cost, my cost to reorder or my purchasing cost, just giving you the Gordon Graham world. You'll see that, the Grant Howard world. And we set a min and a max. Very expensive items, even though it's very expensive, EOQ is going to say buy 23 seconds worth. We're going to say no, let's get at least a week's worth. Really inexpensive item, wire nut, it's going to say to buy 23 years worth. They're going to say, I don't know what's going to be going on in 23 years. I think I'll bring that down to a 6-month to a year supply. Surplus points we haven't talked about. We'll save that for later. We've touched on them, but there's a whole section. Do we have the status right? We talked about a little bit freezing. We'll talk about that later. Be careful of freezing items. That's where you've taken over the order point, line point, and manipulated them and made them static. They won't change. Usage method, seasonal or non-seasonal. Your ARP. In SX, you have to tell it you're using EOQ replenishment. You'll see that in a little while. And then, of course, stock level. Purchase not available. On hand minus committed plus incoming. This is what we started with yesterday, the company objectives. We then built this inventory model. We then went through this detail of how all of these work. I mean, that's what we spent all of yesterday on. Everyone with me? And this morning, we took a little bit of time for notes, but in about an hour, we just, now again, rolled through some of it quick, but we just rolled through everything that we rolled through yesterday. And as I mentioned yesterday as we were leaving, I like to do that for 2 reasons. I'm a big believer on you have to see things multiple times to bring it in, the train the trainer. So that was important. Let you see it. The second one is when we spend a whole day, your mind wants to go, wow, there's so much there, I can never take that in. It spent the whole day because we took our time going through it. It was fast, but again, we spent a lot there. But I just wanted to come back and go, we just covered everything in a nutshell in an hour. There's a lot there, but not as much as you walked away thinking there was yesterday. When we get ready to come back from the break, we're now going to take this, and now how do we actually go back and do it? How do I get a dipstick that represents my product? How do I make sure I'm looking at worthy items below order point? How do I make sure I'm bringing in the right items and the right quantity? We are going to walk through the 10 steps the rest of today and tomorrow. Any questions before we take this break? Everyone good with this review? Is that worthy to get you? Because I also know you're kind of leery in the morning, tired. Is that a good hour spent, everyone? All right, very, very good. I'll see everyone in 15 minutes. I've got 9:35. Let's go ahead and get started back up at 9:40. One sec, you guys. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to roll into the 10 steps and start bringing everything we learned yesterday and this review this morning into how do I get my system to do this? How do I set it up and forecast and get a good order point, line point, EOQ? How do I get a good purchase not available? How do I use the buyer's control centers, workbench, the timeline, the surplus to go work my inventory? Is there anything we need to address before we move on? Very good. Better numbers. Setup, step 1. Data, step 2. Forecasting, step 3. Purchase net available, step 4. Parameters and setup. First off, I like to share a story, and this works well. First time I went and worked on a system, you can turn that down just slightly for me, Jeff, please. First time I went and worked on SX, which back then was called Trend. It was the character version. We got into a company that was in Texas, and everything was still at the item warehouse level. So if you wanted to set your usage control, you had to go down to the item warehouse, product by product, set the usage control, set the safety, look at the lead time. You had to do all of this down at the level manually, one at a time. About 2 weeks into the project, we finally got through. This was an industrial supplier, probably about 60% of their SKUs. You guys with me? And then I said, how are you guys going to change this? Because next month, what was an A item may be a B item. You're going to have to go back through this. It didn't take long to conclude. It was going to be very hard to keep SX going, Trend in those days, on a big company with that many SKUs. That's when we got with Infor and say, you need to bring your system up to a new phase. Smart parameter dynamic setting. And that's what we're getting ready to do. What took over 2 weeks at that company, and we still didn't even get done, and they were going to have to redo every month theoretically, what I'm getting ready to show you, which is in all of your systems, Fax A Plus and SX. It's available for shims as a mod. And I know I've got someone here from Touchstone. I don't know what's available for it. Danzig, we're working on it differently. But the point being, once we got these changes into Trend, in the fax, whatever, we can go into a distribution now, as long as you have these concepts. So we still have to do this concept of why we're setting things. Are there special things about your distributor? Do we need to beef the safeties up or down, whatever it may be? But 15 minutes we can set up their system and start forecasting. I go into companies all the time. We spend the first day going over the philosophy. The second day, we change the parameters. By lunchtime, we are generating across the system with the new parameters. And I'll explain how that works. The second nice thing about it is, next month, if the rank changes, it acknowledges that. And if we said we want an A to have a 3-month usage window, and now this item became a B item, which we want to have a 4-month, it's going to go and go, oh, I'm no longer an A, I'm a B, put a 4-month window on it. Change its safety percent from 50 to 75, all by doing this initial setup. Okay? So that's where we're at. So again, smart parameters. It's set up and parameter maintenance is continuous. It has to go on all the time. I mean, a lot of you, when did you set up your parameters? I go into the company, I go, where did these parameters come from? I don't know. When do they get set up? We don't know. And I just had a conversation at the break. Then why are you locked into something you don't know who did it, why they did it, and what it's doing for you? Those are the companies you're going to go back next week or the following week and probably do what? A reboot. And the way I just explained it is, a lot of you moved into someone else's house. All their furniture is still there, all the paint that they used and the colors you didn't like, and there's 2 ways you can move into that house. You can move in and try to work on a room at a time, move all their old furniture over to another room, try to paint that room, and 3 years later, you're still working on it. You with me? Or you can say, hey, I'm going to take all this furniture, order the dumpster, throw it out, strip the walls or whatever, repaint it, and a week later move into my house. That's where a lot of you really are. You need to get rid of the house that you moved into and make it your house and go reset these parameters to the right parameters and let your system work for you. Otherwise, you don't know what your system's doing and why it's doing it. So again, the world's dynamic, things change. New items at beginning versus once established. There's parameters in it that says, how do you want to treat new items versus once it gets history established, how do you want to treat it? And again, implement the smart continuous parameters, all right? And that's the only thing I really need to talk about. Your parameters should be dynamic and your systems allow you to do that. And of course, you have to wrap good pet around this. Processes, education, technology. You just can't go load parameters of, I don't know what it should be and guess at it. You need to put the logic of what should this parameter be, what is it serving, and how am I going to use it? Implement smart product ranking. Ranking is so important today to help us set these parameters. An A item is not the same as a D, but yet most of us are still stuck in the 80s and 90s with what? Let's use a backward 6-month, 50% safety, and that's what's applying to everything. That might be good for an A item, but it may not be good for a D. An A and a D item are different. Let's acknowledge that. Our system will allow us to acknowledge it, and let's use parameters accordingly. So now, it's dynamic. It uses hits, all right? So it's going to change for you. It's smart. It allows balancing. If you notice, a lot of these parameters are what? I want to move it up to ASQ for service, but I'm still thinking about profit, so we're going to put a fence on it. Everyone there? I want my EOQ to kick in, but I don't want it to be less than a week and more than a year. So again, it starts to allow me to balance out customer experience with profitability. And it's using hits and costs. That's the two big ones. Return versus the cost time expected. What return are you getting? So again, you'll see this come through. It's multi-level. What I'm saying with that is you're going to see in a minute, you can come in there, and in 2 minutes we can set up this one. How do you want to run usage controls? Hey, I want my A's to have a 3 months, my B's to have a 4 month, my C's to have a 5 months, my D's to have a 6 months, my E's to have a 6 months. You're going to see we just put that in. How do you want to run safety? I want my A's to have 50%, 75, 100, 125, and 0. Now that's our company level. And most of you are going to start there. Now some of you will already start what I call the over-analysis. Right away you're trying to think of all the one-offs where this won't work, where you got to do changes. Don't do that. Go make changes out of necessity when something comes up that says to change it. Don't try to second guess it all up front and go, well, that won't work for this and this. Run it and then change it when you need to, not because of what you think's going to happen. And the second one that people do is they'll start telling me this story. Well, 22 years ago, we ran out of this product. And I'm going, okay, 20, and they're trying to run today based off a memory from, let the history go. Draw this line. You're in this new world. Here was yesterday. Use it for experience, but don't let it dictate how you're going to run your world today. Use the experience from it. Now, where I'm going with this is multi-level. This may be good for the company, but you may have a warehouse that what? And this is where it gets to be parameter or hierarchy driven. This warehouse is in a really, really competitive area. We've got to have even better safeties or service levels at this warehouse than the rest of the company. So you could come in and say, for this warehouse, I want 75, 100, 125, and 150. Everyone with me? And the system's going to say, in general, use this. Oh, but for this warehouse, I want to do this. Or it might be, hey, this warehouse has really tight space. All our other warehouses are good, but this warehouse is tight on space. So what's that mean about its carrying cost? All my other warehouses are 24%, but this warehouse is 30% because space is more sacred. You're driving the parameters back to reality. And I'm going to drive it a level deeper. I've got a particular vendor out there, and they are stellar. Fill rate, on-time delivery, accuracy, the whole thing. And the usage through this vendor is really good of what we collect. I only need 25% safety on this vendor. You guys follow me? Because they're good. I've got another vendor. I won't mention names, but you guys will all pull out 2 vendors at least. Cow, they suck. Their fill rate, I can't count on it. You never know. You know the ones, you're calling them a week before the PO comes in. What stuff's not going to be on the PO so I can react now instead of getting surprised when it comes in? Is it going to be on time? And it's never on time. And half the stuff isn't right, a lot of work. Now again, part of me wants to drop that vendor, but if you can't, I may be coming in and go, this particular vendor, because of the way they work with us, I need 100% safety on A's, and 150 on B's, and 200 on C's. So where I'm going with this, it's rank driven, and it's also hierarchy driven. All the way from the company, to the warehouse, to the vendor, to the P line, all the way down to the individual item. So you have a lot of control within the system. But I'm not setting up, and I'm going to repeat one more time, I'm not setting this and this, all the exceptions up until I know I need to. I want to run with this as much as I can and set the exceptions up out of necessity. Everyone good? How it works. We don't have the third mic yet, right? Okay. Go ahead in the back, and then we're working over here for the next question.
Just a quick question. We do probably 60% DMI. When you set these parameters.
60% VMI?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, for your customers or your vendors for you?
Vendors for us.
Okay, so you're doing VMI with your vendors.
So if we set these parameters up, will that affect that? I'm not in purchasing, I'm the CFO, so this is all new to me.
Well, again, the VMI, there's definitely things going to come in. If you're full boat VMI, when we get to EOQ, your cost of purchase should be definitely much lower, which says this is a very easy process to go through, so it's what? Better to buy it more often, let them ship it, than to put it on our warehouse and pay carrying costs. That's part of it. Now, all the rest of this, doesn't matter if you're VMI or not, it depends on, is the vendor good? If they're good, you could have lower safeties. If they're VMI but they still suck at it, you still need higher safeties. You making sense? Perfect. What was the question up here?
Yeah, in any of the systems, are there sort of scenario planning tools so you can understand the financial impact if you change the safety stock for either a warehouse or a vendor?
No, not the way you're looking for it, okay?
So is it, you kind of
But
do
here's
it-
what I'm going to say. In today's world, because you will get in trouble, how did Home Depot fail so? Do I have any HD folks in here real quick?